Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the engine that powers so much of modern software, the software as a service, or SaaS, business model. We're going to pop the hood to see how it works, what makes it so powerful, and frankly, what makes it so incredibly challenging. So let's just start with a puzzle that seems to fly in the face of all business logic. How on earth can you grow without any new sales? Stick with me here, because the answer reveals the unique, almost magical power of what we're calling the SaaS machine. To get our heads around that puzzle, we first need to look at the machine's blueprint, and it all starts with a huge shift in how we all interact with software. You know, it wasn't that long ago that you'd buy software in a physical box. It was a big one-time purchase for a license that you own forever, and you'd install it on your computer. Now we've moved from owning a single copy to subscribing to a service, one that's always updated, always improving, and you can get to it from anywhere. Okay, let's dive into the most important dial on the entire SaaS dashboard, monthly recurring revenue, or MRR. This isn't just a snapshot of last month's sales. No, this is a forward-looking number. It's the predictable, recurring income you can confidently expect to come in next month. It is the very heartbeat of the business. Now, here's a crucial point that trips a lot of people up. MRR is not the same as cash in the bank. So, say a customer pays you $1,200 for an annual plan. Great, you get all that cash right now. But for your MRR, you only recognize 1/12 of that, $100 a month. Remember this distinction because it becomes incredibly important later on. All right, so the machine is humming along, fueled by this predictable revenue. But how do we know if it's actually healthy? Well, that means we have to understand the forces that are constantly pushing that MRR dial up and down. The most critical, vital sign, the one that keeps founders up at night, is churn. Put simply, it's the rate you're losing customers or revenue. A high churn rate is like a fever for a SaaS business. It's a flashing red light telling you something is seriously wrong. Which brings us to a really important question. If you lose one customer, is the impact always the same as losing another? The answer is a definite, resounding no. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Imagine you have 20 customers. In both of these scenarios, you lose exactly one of them. So your customer churn rate is 5%. But just look at the damage to your revenue. Losing a small customer, it's a tiny blip. But losing your biggest customer, that's a massive hit. This is why the smartest companies obsess over revenue churn, not just customer churn. Okay, so what are the consequences of that churn? Well, this one little metric creates a massive, constant, and honestly exhausting problem for every single SaaS business out there. The best way to think about it is this. Your business is a bucket. Your sales and marketing teams are working their tails off to fill that bucket with new revenue. But churn is a hole in the bottom, and it's constantly draining that hard-earned revenue right back out. And to really get a sense of how big this leak can be, look at this number. A $100 million company with a pretty normal churn rate has to generate $30 million in new revenue every single year just to end up where they started. They are on a treadmill, running at full speed just to not go backwards. It is a brutal part of this model. So how in the world do the best companies solve this leaky bucket problem? Well, here's the thing. They don't just plug the leak. They figure out how to turn it into a source of fuel. The secret is this really powerful force called expansion MRR. This is all about getting your current happy customers to spend more money with you over time, whether that's adding more users, buying new features, or just upgrading to a better plan. And this is where the magic really happens. Look at this. Let's say you start the month with 10 grand in MRR. You lose $500 to churn, that's the leak. But then you gain $750 in expansion from your existing customers. You end the month with more revenue than you started with, without signing a single new client. That state, where your existing customers generate more new revenue than you lose from cancellations, is the absolute holy grail. It's the answer to our puzzle from the beginning. It's how a business can literally grow all by itself. And over time, the compounding effect is just staggering. A business that's constantly fighting that leaky bucket might get to 150 grand in annual revenue. But a business in SaaS Nirvana, it can grow to more than twice that size in the exact same time frame, and its growth actually accelerates every single month.
Now, reaching this nirvana state isn't about getting lucky. It comes from making some very deliberate, very strategic choices about who you serve and how you attract them in the first place.
The first big choice is your market, and this has a huge impact on your odds of hitting negative churn. Selling to other businesses, B2B, gives you a much clearer path. Why? Well, think about it. Businesses have bigger budgets, they have more seats to add, and they're way less likely to cancel a tool that's critical to their operations. That combination is the perfect recipe for low churn and high expansion. It's the same thing with how you let customers try your product. A freemium model like Dropbox is great for attracting millions of users, but most of them will never, ever pay. It's a volume game. On the other hand, a time-limited free trial for a specialized professional tool, that attracts serious buyers. And those are the customers who are most likely to stick around and become the source of that priceless expansion revenue you need. Okay, so we've seen the incredible potential of this machine. But now it's time for a pretty serious dose of unfiltered reality about what it actually takes to get this thing off the ground.
The first and maybe most painful challenge is just validation. This quote from Rob Walling just hits the nail on the head. Your idea, your amazing product, your beautiful website, they are all completely worthless until you can prove that someone is willing to give you actual money to solve their problem. And even when you do get paying customers, you run headfirst into this brutal paradox. You spend a lot of money today to get a new customer, but you only get that money back in tiny monthly chunks. This creates an initial cash deficit that actually gets deeper the faster you grow. It's infamously called the long, slow ramp of death. And it's the steep financial climb you have to endure to build a business that can one day grow on its own.
And this all brings us to the final, crucial question that every founder, investor, and employee in the SaaS world has to ask. We've seen the blueprint, we've seen the potential for incredible compounding growth, but we've also seen the harsh realities of the leaky bucket and the cash flow trough. Is the promise of that nirvana worth the incredibly painful climb? We've explored the machine. The answer to that one is up to you.